All right, everybody, one of my rare opportunities where mayor hands me the gavel for meetings. So we'll call the meeting to order. We have a quorum present and we are certified and compliant with the open meetings laws. First order of business is the approval of minutes from the August 14th meeting. I'd entertain a motion for that.
I'll move to approve.
All right, motion by Patrick. There's a second.
Second.
Second by Adrian. Anybody have any edits or questions on those minutes? All right, seeing none, all in favor, aye.
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 And any opposed? All right, those meeting minutes are accepted. Next up, as we've been handed the version update on that, I guess we can maybe go with what we've got updated or just a generalized where we're at.
Yep, so we had the same presentation with the same information, just updated numbers. So if we want to scroll to the next slide. Again, we're here tonight. We'll be hearing from planning, library, police, public works. That includes parks and rec, streets, stormwater, and facilities. Hopefully we finalize the CIP tonight. If not, we will be meeting August 28th, and then City Council will approve this November 11th. Next slide. Again, our goals and objectives. I won't review this. It's in there for you to have if you need. We'll go to the next slide. This is what is updated. So since we met last week, we have seen an increase of 1.79 million in the 2026 year, so the budget year that we're working on. And then one project did move from 2026 to 2027, and that was about 2.23 million. We want to go to the next slide. It breaks it down again by funding source, and we've listed the changes that have occurred since last week. We did get updated numbers on the HVAC. So we saw a decrease of about 96,500. There were some park project changes in numbers, and then one moved to 2027. So those are listed there. Racetrack Road street project was in 2027, moved to 2026, about just over 2 million. It was in 2027, moved to 26. And then there's some support from Town of Dunkirk. You will see that amount in here that right now it's proposed that we would issue the debt for their portion and they would pay us back. Then the Riverfront Development Trail and Underpass, there's revised cost estimates, less the revenues, you're looking at about 1.4 million. And then the Riverfront Development Phase 2, again, costs were revised, and that was the project that was pushed out to 2027. And then the next slide just has our staff recommendations again. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, we can get into the department presentations.
What did you say the delta between last version and this version is?
For 2026, about 1.8 million.
Okay. All right, anybody have any other questions about the overview, goals and overview? All right, we can go into department presentation, planning and development.
Hi, I didn't put together any slides for you guys. I only have two things on the CIP. The first one is the extension of the comp plan. Been working on the comp plan. It was approved in last year's CIP, and then we're moving into phase 2 of that. So that's on one of the agenda items. And then the second one is I'm looking to start scanning in all of our building plans downstairs, and we've also got some over in the Opera House converting those into PDFs so they're searchable. I have a list of reasons that we can go through if you'd like me to, but essentially we're looking at increasing efficiency. Something happens to the building, we've lost all of those plans. Additionally, when we have people reach out to us, we can get those plans out faster to them. And, you know, we're looking at it a plethora of different reasons for it being a good project. So.
All right, that's simple at 2 items. Anybody have any questions on those? Probably easier to scan plans and documents than it is to hire a scribe to copy them, right? Although you can get the nice iconography.
We could go that route. I'm fine with that, guys, but I think this will probably be fast.
Yeah. All right, if nobody's got any questions for Chris and her department, then we will go to Director Ramsey and Library.
All right, thanks. Mine won't be quite as quick as that, but I don't have a lot of large ticket items. The library typically doesn't have a lot of capital requests, but I want to just to start off, you can go to the next slide, talking about there are 3 items that are moving from the CIP budget to the operating budget for the library for 2026. One of them is the $7,000 for replacement of computers and peripherals. Another is a $3,000 for replacement of furnitures and fixtures, and then $4,000 for lower level carpet replacement. Those at the recommendation of the finance department, we move those from the CIP to the operating budget. So you won't see those on the CIP this year. We can go on to the next slide. That lower level carpet replacement, this is, speaking of the operating budget, this project is being funded from the operating budget because the amount requested doesn't meet the threshold for CIP. This carpet was replaced sometime after the major addition to the library building in 1990, but no one's sure when. It's the shabbiest and oldest carpet in the building. It's a pretty small project at only 500 square feet, including the area right outside of the Carnegie room and the staff break room. So we can go on to the next slide. This is a proper CIP project. This is the security camera replacement. These cameras were last replaced in 2009, so they're pretty ancient by technology standards. The DVR was replaced a little bit more recently in 2021, so that's good to go. But the image quality has always been rather poor, and I've been working with Derek and John and talking to them about what's possible, and they've told me that coaxial cables, the way it's wired, on the coaxial cables, that's the best image quality that we can provide. So we're looking for to replace the existing cameras, maybe add and move a few, and pull new wires, pull data for that. And for that project, we budgeted $20,000 for the current camera replacement. Projects look for future years, looking ahead to 2027. We would like to look at the possibility of doing a space needs study. Our building is 35 years old this year. The addition to the original, the original building is much older, 1908, but the addition having been completed in 1990. Library services have changed dramatically since 1990. And our most acute needs are for programming and meeting space, as well as staff workspace and storage space. A comprehensive space needs study was completed in 2007, and it found that the library was about 10 to 12,000 square foot under or short of accommodating a community the size of Stoughton. This was in 2007. Since then, various areas of the building have been remodeled, but no additions have been made, so the building stands as it did in 1990 at 16,000 square feet. This year, we plan to carry out a preliminary space needs assessment with the help of a consultant from our library consortium, the South Central Library System. Service is included in our membership in the library consortium. So this preliminary study will help inform, hopefully, this larger study that, like I said, we'd like to do in 2027. What we're hoping for is a comprehensive study, a space needs study, similar to the one that was completed or is being completed for public safety. Yeah, like I said, that one is for 2027. Go on to the next one. Oh, sorry. Yeah, that's what I just covered. Sorry. And then finally, we have a couple projects that Brett is going to talk probably more about. One is a replacement of our roof. It's leaking like a sieve. Every time there's a hard rain or even a not so hard rain, we have water in various places. Tracy's been working on making some repairs, but the roof, the facility conditions assessment that was conducted this year found that the roof is past its useful life. So that is on the CIP for 2026. Also related to the roof is installation of solar panels. So knowing that sustainability is a big priority of the cities and wanting to do our part, the library would like to join the ranks of other city buildings that have installed solar panels, following, of course, the replacement of the roof. This is budgeted for about $80,000 in the 2026 CIP, though the final cost may be lower due to federal grants and other incentives. And to show their commitment to sustainability, the library would like to contribute up to half of the funding for this project, up to $40,000 from the special gift fund. The library board just decided on that actually last night. So that is all I have. Anybody have any questions?
We'll ask more about roof stuff when we cover that one, but
Oh, yeah.
perfect.
Yeah, I'll be here.
All right, nobody's got any questions for Director Ramsey, then we'll go on to Chief Jenks.
Thank you. As you can see, our requests are minimal this year. I feel like that impulsive buyer that finally got help. Our fleet is in really good shape, and I attribute to some of that to our delayed purchases. It took a while for, we'd order vehicles, they were like a year late, and it finally caught up with us. So none of our squads met the metrics, I guess, that is provided by Public Works. So we're like, we'll just skip it this year. We'll definitely be looking again next year for a squad or two, which I forecasted for 27. So the first request is for the speed boards. We purchased some last year. You may have seen them, experienced them throughout the city. You can see over at Nordic Ridge. The signs give the driver their current speed, and often the thumbs up or thumbs down. So we have that positive reinforcement. Slide. You can see the solar power panel affixed to the top. They're fairly mobile. It's just a simple post. Again, working with Public Works, they're able to do a locate and get a post up in no time. And they're easy to, I don't know, Brett, if you've experienced it, but it sounds like they're really easy to affix to the post. Yep. Yep. So we put them where we get complaints. We put them on our major thoroughfares. We just move them around, try to gather data. If you want to hit a slide, that's that night. That's over on Veterans, where one's docked now. And slide. There's the old thumbs up, that positive reinforcement. You See,
Are they able to give negative reinforcement?
So, right, so the next slide illustrates the data that we retrieve. So it shows, average speed, the 85 percentile. It gives us an idea of what's going on, where we should enforce. Oftentimes, it'll solve or answer a question. We'll have a neighborhood that's, concerned about speed, and we'll show them, it's not really that bad. It's pretty much average speed. So it's good, solid data. There is a subscription fee to the cost. So each sign costs about $500 a year. We currently have the 2, and then we're requesting 2 additional signs. That's just a second page of more data. There's the 12 grand. And then the next is just simply our squads, although we're not getting 2 new ones, we have 2 computers, 2 laptops that are aged now that need replacing according to IT. And John provided me the cost of $12,000 roughly for those 2 units. Of course, we use them a lot, but, not only their picture at night, but all our data goes through them, cameras run through them. So they're used heavily during their shift. And I believe it's about a 4-year life on them. So we got 2 that are going to expire next year. That might be that's it. Any questions?
Chief, the $500 per the speed boards, are those in your operation?
Yeah,
or?
we kept them in operating. I don't know how you guys feel. That sounds right. We have that big subscription line, so there's some more.
And it's just flat out $500 per
sign.
board?
Yeah, if we do a 2-year agreement, they drop it down to $450 per sign.
Too bad they don't give you like multiple discount.
Right.
I suppose you probably have to get to like 5 or
I would
10
imagine,
or
yeah.
something like that.
Yeah, and honestly, if we go to 4, that'll be pretty good. We've got it covered now. It'd just be nice to have those 2 additional.
All right. Anybody with questions for Chief Jenks?
I just have one question. On the amount. I thought, is it $6K per sign?
Is it what? I'm sorry?
For the speed board signs, is it $6K per sign?
I
$6,000
think I have
per sign?
12. Did I put the wrong number?
Well, I see 6,000 in the line item, but I thought the total for 2 would be 12. So I'm just wanting to verify
Let me check
that.
quick. I'll see if I've got the quote in my email.
I think I'm looking at the right line, yeah.
Now you got me questioning myself, so hang on. I will double check on that. I'm sorry. I don't find it here.
The ones we bought last year were $2,900 each.
Maybe it's 3,000 each and a total of 6. Get 4, yeah.
You said that the cost of the computers, 6, maybe it's on the line items, it looks like maybe they were,
Oh, gotcha.
because we got 6 for the speed board signs and 12.
Oh, I see. Okay. I think in my narrative, though, I had it wrong as well for the speed boards. I believe I did put 12.
I think it's right in here based on this conversation.
Okay.
Yep.
Sorry for the confusion.
All right. Any other questions for Chief? All right. Then the Public Works show, starting with Tony.
All right, thank you. Next slide, please. All right, so first we'll start with some of our park development funds in the CIP. Head to the next slide there, Tim. Thanks. So first one up here is the Magnolia Springs Restoration Program. This is a 5-year program that we're doing. We've done now 2 years of that restoration plan, and so far so good. We're getting there. We're we've run into a few hiccups here and there, but we're finding ways to correct those and make sure we get to the end result that we're looking for. For 2026 spring activities, we'll be doing a spring herbicide treatment, April through May. That will target remaining woody resprouts and invasive weeds that germinated after the prior clearing, and then it will prepare the site for native seed installation. Then between May and June, we'll be doing a native seed installation with oak savanna species and mesic prairie species. That will also include cover crop with oats and annual rye for erosion control. We did actually already have the scouts, the local scouts group come out and do some crop cover with some annual rye, and it took really well around the pond itself. So off to a good start there with that erosion control. Then between April and May, we'll do some native plantings. We're installing 2,500 native plant plugs along the pond edges for erosion control and biodiversity. Also planting 50 bare root bur oaks and 75 native woodland shrubs to enhance that savanna structure out there. So it should start looking a little more full than it currently looks. If you're familiar with that area, it is pretty bare right now. So we should start getting some more life out there and starting to take some shape. Then we have some, outside of that, we have just some weed management and mowing that we'll do 2 rounds of that. They kind of go through and mow along the trail system at a 14-inch height. That just kind of chokes out the weeds as they're growing, but allows those native species to thrive. So that's kind of the plan. For 2026, anticipated is 43,000, and then 2027, as you can see up there, 12,000, and then 21,000 for those future years. Next slide. All right, so also out at that, this is all out at the Magnolia Springs development, but at Tigan Farms Park, we are starting the park development itself. So we'll start between April and May with trail installation, which we plan to do the majority of that in-house. We are planning on putting in a gravel trail, which you can kind of see on the master plan there in the tannish color that goes around that wetland pond. And we also have some benches that we'll be putting out there. We actually had an Eagle Scout project this year. Jack Hennings built 3 live edge benches from some of the trees that were removed during the invasive species removal. So that was a kind of a cool project to have as part of this Tigan Farms Park development. Between May and June, we'll have the bridge installation. We are working with Cummins to potentially be the ones to put that bridge together for us and build that. They're currently doing a pedestrian bridge for us at Lowell Park. So after finalizing that, then this would potentially be another project that they could work on for us. And then outside of that, we have a natural kind of playground. It's kind of all low-level playground equipment, so it's not like swing sets and high climbers. It's more kind of natural environment, stones you can jump on, kind of stumps, stuff like that, to kind of keep it all within that natural theme. And then a kind of a natural small open air shelter is planned for that as well. And then the total down there, we have currently budgeted for that 200,000 for next year. Again, that's all kind of dependent on what we're bringing in for park development fund fees, though. With this, same with all of our parks now, as we bring in those impact fees, if we have the dollars, we can do the whole project outright, but if not, we'll phase in the project itself. Next slide. All right, 51 West Park Development, so Standard Legacy Park. I don't know if anybody's had a chance to go out to Standard Legacy recently, but it is fully under construction right now. And so in 2026 is kind of the last piece of that puzzle. This year we're putting in the sport court, the trail system, and then we've already put in the playground. In addition to that, we're putting in 2 soccer fields this year. So remaining for next year is the park shelter itself. It'll be kind of a shelter similar to the Virgin Lake shelter, where you have room for a couple picnic tables and then like a 2-holer for your restroom. 2-holer, is that proper way to say it? Standard language. Standard language, sorry. All right, apologize for that. And if anyone has any questions during this, feel free to jump in. But otherwise, next slide, please. Now, moving on from those park development funds. So this is kind of miscellaneous items, and actually when Jim mentioned they're reaching that CIP threshold, I guess I don't know what that number is, so some of this may actually be operating. I'll let you inform me, but some of the miscellaneous items that we had for this year, we have, and I do not have my glasses, but soccer goals out at Virgin Lake Park. Currently, Stoughton Area Youth Soccer Association owns and maintains all of the soccer goals located in Stoughton Parks. But at the conclusion of their fall season, SASA removes the nets and relocates those goals to storage to preserve their condition for future use. And while this approach protects the association's investment, it does leave some limited opportunities for residents that may want to play soccer outside of those times. And so to help meet that demand, we thought it would be good to get a set of like city goals and have those kind of be available during the shoulder seasons. So that's kind of where this came from. I know we do have, specifically out in that Virgin Lake area, we have a large group that plays soccer kind of year-round if possible. So that's why we kind of mentioned Virgin Lake, but these goals would be able to move around wherever we kind of needed them, kind of thing. So, ball diamond netting replacement. We have a number of nets that are kind of on those backstops up on the top that are starting to get a little tattered. But kind of the most important one is along that first baseline out at Norse Park. We'd like to install a new netting system. I'm hopeful this will cover that cost, and there may be some grant opportunities with that too. But it has become kind of a safety issue out there at Norse Park along that first baseline. Then sport court maintenance, you can kind of see in the photos here, is what we're dealing with on a yearly basis. And maybe Brett, you can kind of let us know what kind of materials we're using and where the next step is in this.
Yeah, and I apologize, Tony. He asked me earlier today, and I had to give him the product.
So I still don't know the product. Yes.
So we do have a product that Farner is actually going to be using. They did try this kind of a sanded grout, and it did not work. So under warranty, they are going to try a different product, and I'll get that to Tony and you guys if you'd like to see it. But they're going to be trying a different product. And maybe if the product works, that it could be something we purchase in-house from an operating instead of using. We'll let Farner under warranty try out the product before we.
And in addition to the course that Farner worked on, this is a common problem just with Wisconsin weather. It's freezing, thawing, back and forth, and it takes a toll on these courts. So kind of a constant battle. And then lastly, park amenities. This is kind of just replacement of dated trash cans, benches, signs, etc. So replacing those, updating those in the parks, and with us bringing on a good number of new parks, kind of part of those purchasing procedures as well. So next slide, please. All right, ADA transition plan implementation. In 2021, MSA completed an ADA audit on our facilities and found that we had substantial deficiencies within our park system. So we have been working on for a number of years to get through that list. It's a pretty good stack. And we've been doing a really good job of getting accessibility to a lot of parks specifically for instance, in this picture here, you can see this is at Racetrack Park. There's no accessibility to that bench. So if you're interested in seeing the most recent project we've done in this with the ADA transition plan, you drive by Division Street Park. As of today, we put in a pad to get to one of those benches. So it's and actually we went down there and caught 2 kids putting their handprints in them and got there in time enough to smooth it back out. Just in time. That's kind of what we're doing with these. It's also lining required parking spaces at parks that don't have them. For instance, Scheffelker Park does not currently have an ADA stall, so we are putting that in this week. So that's kind of what these dollars are used for. Next one, please. Jefferson Street pedestrian bridge. I may have Brett jump in for this for the most part, but I'll jump in a little bit at the end.
Yeah, this is definitely a legacy type project. It's been kind of kicked down the road a little bit. This is in conjunction with a project I'll be talking about from the street standpoint with Main Page Court. So this connects from Main Page Court to Jefferson. And so this bridge has been through the ringer. We do get it inspected annually. Every year it comes back as need to be replaced. However, it's not going to tip over tomorrow, but we do need to replace this bridge. And so this the 2026 expense, oh my god, is $595,000. So that includes all engineering and removal and a new span bridge. Basically, bring it in on a crane. It's a 10-foot wide multi-use path, basically, with an offshoot for fishing, that type of thing. So along with that, there is some radius improvements on Jefferson Street to improve the pedestrian safety, and right now it kind of just shoots out into the road. We're going to put curb and gutter in there to kind of delineate the roadway from the pedestrian thoroughfare.
Yeah, and I guess I would just add that we are applying for a TAP grant for this program. And with that, we could have up to 80% of this paid for through that grant program. And we're fairly confident we'll have a good shot at that.
The submittal is due when?
Submittal is due end of October.
This new bridge going to be wide enough for semis?
No, it's not. Great point. Not sure if some of you know this or not, but a semi drove across it 2015-ish, 14, somewhere in there. I think it made it a good portion of the way, if not all the way across the bridge. So at one point, it did support a semi going across it. I think after that, it went through some remediation. It did get a new deck put onto it. Since I've been here, we've made some significant repairs underneath the bridge to the support structures just to get it by, and was inspected by the engineers from the state and is inspected annually by a professional engineer. But it's definitely reached the end of its useful.
I can't remember if you were bollards put in the front of that to prevent any more truck crossings? Or signage or something?
Yeah, we got some, I believe it's we have a sign in front of it or something like that, but obviously anytime you have no curb and gutter, it's basically open to traffic. You invite that type of thing. So this will be a curb and gutter that'll be on Jefferson Street. That'll delineate the traffic from the pedestrian way.
Be great.
Yeah.
All right, and then last but not least, the fun one, the Yahara River Park project. So just a quick little update on this. We have, for phase 1, gotten in the last 2 required pieces for our permit review. So we have gotten in our floodplain analysis, and we've also gotten in our remediation plan. So officially the clock has begun, so as to say. So we should have some updates coming soon on that, and then some upcoming fun public meetings. So we can go to the next slide.
Before,
go ahead.
before we move on,
Yeah.
Regina had a question about the
Oh, yeah.
bridge. I don't want to get.
Oh,
far
sorry,
ahead.
yeah.
Yeah, Brett or Tony, the bridge is going to be the same design as the Mant Park Bridge, right? So when you look down the river, it's similar design?
Yes, yep, good leading question. It'll definitely fit that same theme. Yep.
Thanks.
And I guess I should mention, as you can see, all these goals that are listed in here, these all, I forgot to mention this at the beginning, but these all are just kind of how these different projects relate to our comprehensive outdoor recreation plan. So just FYI. But you want to head to the next slide there? All right, so phase 1, as I mentioned, everything's in for permit review at this point. I did just recently get an updated opinion of cost on this, which went up a little bit. Part of that is an additional amount of remediation being required. So we did need to extend our coffer dam in this first phase. So with that, construction costs are at 2.6. We do have a Land Water Conservation Fund grant of $980, and then a stewardship grant of $239 during this project. So the city's responsibility here is 1.4 roughly. Again, with this, it's we're trying to bring in better trail and water access infrastructure, ADA compliant trails, canoe and kayak access points, and then the underpass really for safety under that 4th Street. Kind of the idea here is that we'll have a safer, accessible trails for biking, walking, paddling, canoeing, and expanded fishing and nature viewing opportunities. In addition to that, there's education opportunities out here, and then really it's kind of a central stop along with Mant Park being reconstructed. We're kind of looking at this as being the destination downtown area for special events in the future here in the city of Stoughton.
And Tony, this will also fill in the head race and tail race.
Correct, yeah. So this will fill in that head race, tail race, which will give us the opportunity to move forward with the powerhouse and whatever we want to end up doing with that, and then allow that RDA project to begin as well and get that developed. Any questions?
Question, going back to the bridge, you mentioned, I think you said a tap grant.
Yes.
Do you know about when we would know?
So end of October, I believe they have to make their determination by the end of the year. So by the end of the year, then we would have time to adjust budget if needed at that point.
Any other questions for Tony?
I had one. Tony, when you talked about the DNR getting all the permits in and the clock is now set, how much time do they have to make a decision on what was lastly submitted to them?
That's a good question, and it already came up today, and I do not have the answer yet. It's either 6 months or a year. I'm not sure which one. But I will say that the DNR has already reviewed our remediation plan, and we've already turned in the floodplain analysis. This is the original floodplain analysis. They asked for some additional work on that, but we determined that what we had turned in was sufficient. So we are turning that in with our permit, and they have informed us that because we already turned in some prior remediation documents, they have kind of a jump start on it, and they think they'll have a quick turnaround time. We've heard that before, Regina, I know, but I feel confident that this time it'll be a little sooner than later.
Well, I mean, I only bring it up is if we want to try to coordinate that construction along with the RDA site.
Yep.
I think our developers are looking to start July 1 of next year, so
Yes.
it would be nice that we're not undoing what the other project has done, like with roads and paths and stuff. So ideally, we can all start.
Correct, Dan. We're anticipating at this point starting in November with remediation, and then going through the next year after the spawning season, continuing. So that would be the upfront remediation, which they're planning on going from upland down, which would allow that RDA project to continue. And then they would finish the in-water remediation on the tail side of that project. If that makes sense. It might not.
Yeah, at some point, we should probably create documents of
Yes.
what goes when.
Yeah, and we
But
are actually
no,
working on those.
That'll be
yes.
great.
And Regina, I'm not sure if you're on the meeting tomorrow, but I do believe there's a meeting with Alexander Group about timelines.
No, I was not informed about that meeting, so that would have been good.
I'm not sure if it's with True North, has to do with the remediation and all that. But bottom line is the time frames or timelines or something that's in our thought process.
Okay, great.
I think once everybody gets through, or when DNR, RDA, Alexander, when everybody's got all their ducks in a row on that, get like a phasing approach to how that, because if everything does manage to happen at once, that'll be a pretty busy corridor down there. So.
Extremely, yes. Yep.
And just today we're talking about access to that site.
Right.
So yeah, we're on the same wavelength for sure.
Got it.
I'm going to go back to the sport court. So you said the one I assume this is the one at racetrack?
Correct.
Yeah, I saw that during coffee break. So this one's being repaired under warranty,
Yep.
and so you have 40,000 in there for the rest of them.
Yes.
And I guess my question is would it be advantageous for us to wait to see how this repair goes before we do them, or are they using a different or the same process to repair the others, or is it a different type of damage?
The repairs should be made, they should have been made 2 months ago, but the wet weather throughout this season has been a challenge. So they didn't want to use the product until they had a longer stretch of dry weather, especially into July and now August. So I actually talked to Luke from Farner, our rep, and he's going to try to get that in when conditions allow. We have a little bit of a dry stretch here, so hopefully things can dry out and we want to give the product a good, fair chance. But I do think that we could have some lessons learned with the product that's being put down.
Yeah, because we have 40,000 budgeted for next year. I don't know what process you're going to use. I don't know if that,
I guess
if it's apples to apples, it might be totally different than this example you gave us.
I think the other thing too is to understand if this is something we can do with in-house labor versus having to hire it out, if there's a certain, like a router or something like that they need to use, or can we just buy the product and use the manufacturer recommendations on how to apply it?
Yeah, because, I'm kind of concerned long-term too, because we're starting to get more of a demand for especially pickleball, and we have a number of kind of the sport courts with basketball or tennis or whatever. And, it's the sustainability of the courts I'm worried about, and those are big ticket items, just like tennis courts. We kind of went through that cycle, and we eventually reduced the number of tennis courts we had because, quite honestly, they're just getting too expensive to maintain. And ideally, we would have some indoor ones, but we're not there yet.
Yeah, and I think to your point, if it's something where, like Brett said, we can end up doing in-house in the future, maybe it becomes an operating budget item instead, where we just anticipate that we'll have repairs over time at all of our courts. But with the amount of courts we're adding, and then our history with these courts, that's where that number kind of came from. But yeah, understanding like if it's something we can do in-house, then maybe that's something we adjust.
Takes people to do them in-house too.
That's
though,
true.
right?
It sure does.
Just like any roadway, these are asphalt courts, and preventing the water from getting down into the base prolongs the lifespan of the court itself. So, sealing up these cracks is a must.
I'm assuming that product is some sort of elastomeric type
Correct.
thing.
And so the product that you see there is a sand base. And when they put it in there, I think we all looked at it and said, that's not going to work. And so
Well, the aesthetics are terrible.
Yeah, and we called them on like that's not going to work because you have to have some elasticity for the freeze thaw cycles, or else it's going to do what it did right. So yeah, we're anxious to see what they're going to try to use because keep in mind too that it also has to be smooth to play on. Right. So it's not like a normal road crack filler. That's a rubberized material. It's going to have some sort of a elastomer in it. I don't know what the formula is, but we're anxious to have them try it out so that we can take a look at it and see if that's something we want to use long term.
Watch when you bring that stuff in-house, look up the STS, or at least because I'm assuming it's going to have a curative in there that you're going to have either flammable storage or something like that. So,
and any new product that we get, we have to go through the SDS. And a lot of times, if we do get a product, we have the manufacturer or a rep in the area come in and give our staff training. There could be some certain PPE or things that you don't want to get on your skin. And if it's too dangerous, we just won't do it. And then it's where we contract it out to the professional.
yeah.
Hope AJ's listening to all that.
Yeah, one more, Mayor. All right. Any other questions for Tony?
I do again, and I
All right.
know I'm correct, but this came up with the trash cans at the different parks. Can we try out different recycling options? I know it's been hard to get people to recycle, but is there I'd love to do a little experiment of which recycling canisters work better, what signages work better to get our community really more sustainable in that kind of recycling realm. Is that something that we can do?
I mean, you tell me what I gotta do. You're in Park and Rec. You just let me know.
Yeah, I heard they made one that gives you a thumbs up.
Yeah, there you go. It's Regina, as you know, like, I mean, we did try it downtown a while ago. And those, I think, I swear people put trash in the recycling on purpose, just to mess with us. So it's the amount of time that we're spending separating those. It's almost like we need someone just specifically for that job. But I mean, it's definitely something we can try, and I can look into see if it's working at any other park facilities. Everywhere I've been so far this year, I haven't seen it really working. I've seen the option, but I've also seen what's in the trash cans. So it's a tough one. It really is, and I don't have the perfect answer, but it's definitely something we could try. And we could try the blue cans versus the green cans kind of thing, and see if it works. And I think you're right, though. The way to do it is to get the word out and make it kind of an initiative through the city. That may be the way to go.
Well, and also, I mean, I think maybe Christina too, with like Taste of Stoughton, the areas that actually have good signage about and pictures of what goes into each can were more successful than just a blue or green barrel. People just, I don't know, maybe they're colorblind, but it's more signage as well. So maybe we can work on that as a team to try to figure out how to do it, because it is like a pet peeve of mine, and it's pretty ridiculous in this day and age that people are choosing not to recycle when it's so easy to do so.
Yeah, and I will say we are trying a lot of our facilities to put in like the water bottle fillers to try and encourage people to just reuse. And so that's one step we're trying to take. But yeah, you're right. Maybe there are some opportunities we can look for out there, and we can bring those to Park and Rec and see what we can figure out.
Yeah, like I said, maybe each park we have a little, we try different things with different signage and do our own little internal kind of research to see what works best for our community.
Yeah.
Because it's very frustrating.
Yeah, like keep that on an experimental basis, maybe a limited rollout at least at first, and couple that with things we've talked about in Sustainability Committee too, of really getting a stronger education piece out there to help everybody understand that it's easy to do up front, very difficult for someone else to have to undo the mess afterward.
Right.
All right, any other questions for Tony? All right, we're going to be on the Brett with 2 T's show, because I'm the one with 3 T's. I have to get it fixed up here. So.
I got to start over now. So, thanks for joining us tonight. So we're going to discuss our street and stormwater construction projects, public works equipment replacement program, and also some of our facility replacement items in 2026. I will go as fast as I can, but you guys, you tell me if you have any questions or not. So again, as I go through the presentation, please stop me, ask questions. I'll go as quickly as I can, but I do feel like this is important information for you guys to consider. Obviously, there's a lot of high dollar, infrastructure within this package, and I just want you guys to know what you're getting. So when it comes to roadways, so how do we choose which roadways get selected and when we place them? So we do have a PACER rating that was essentially devised by the University of Wisconsin to rate asphalt roads basically is 0 through 10. 0 being a road that is failed, and 10 being basically a brand new road. So every 2 years, which we're due this year to do, every 2 years we rate all of our roadways and put those into our GIS database, then also turn that into the DOT. Then also the type of roadway goes into our selection process. Is it a residential roadway? Is it a collector? Is it arterial roadway? Traffic volumes. Also planning with Stoughton Utilities for underground type work. So we collaborate with them on an annual basis and multiple times through the year on our projects to make sure that we're doing these projects together as a collective. So this year we actually have quite a few that you'll see in the presentation. And then also planning for DOT work, which we have a healthy dose of that this year, plus next year and in 2029. There's our PACER rating breakdown, like I discussed. So there is a manual that we follow that kind of guides us on how we rate the roads, that there's some consistency there. There's our GIS layer that has all of our roadways that are rated. So it kind of gives you a snapshot of where we're at. So again, this was 2 years ago. We'll update this and it'll be refreshed for the next presentation. But the red is bad, green is good, so to speak. So we have a long ways to go, but we've made a lot of headway as well. We'll keep plugging along. State road aids. So basically we get money back from the state through our general transportation aids. Basically, the more work that we do, the more we get back from the state. So this next year, we're looking at getting about $1.13 million back from the state because of the work that we've done. This is a 6-year rolling average of all the capital expenses that we put into our roadways that we get back. Connecting highway is the money we get back from the state to basically take care of Highway 51 from Chalet through to Roby. So they give us money to basically do road maintenance on the roadways so that they don't have to. I would anticipate in the future we'll get more roadway, probably maybe to Highway B potentially. But we're pretty careful on, they'll tell us basically through an agreement, but they'll kind of coax us to take on some of these roadways. If it makes sense, I think we're more apt to do it. Obviously, we do get an annual annual dollars to maintain these roadways. However, these dollars don't go a long ways anymore. So we're pretty careful on how we select that or how we use our dollars. Obviously, right now we're getting brand new roadways on East Main. So those should be pretty low maintenance for quite some time. The maintenance is really going to come in later years. It's going to be a concrete roadway, so it should last a long time, 40 plus years. However, within that time, there is going to be maintenance. In concrete roads, if there is an issue, you basically have to take the whole panel out and replace it. So it's not just cutting out a small section. It's maybe a 10 by 10 type of square or to the midline of the road. So total, we're looking at getting back about $1.24 million. Go to the next slide, please. You notice since 2015, we've had a healthy increase in the amount that we've gotten back in GTA. And a lot of that is because of the council being so aggressive towards road maintenance. So we have steadily increased our investment into our roadways, into our infrastructure, and we've gotten some dividends back because of that investment. I will point out that our GTA actually did come down from last year. That's because they did count the public works facility, that infrastructure, as part of the formula. Unfortunately, now that's in year 7, believe it or not. So that did come off from the outside of the 6-year rolling average. I'm not, no, not in public works. Can't speak for anybody else. So we have a couple different types of maintenance activities or reconstruction type activities. One of the items that we've done is a simple mill and overlay. Basically, you take the top layer or the finished layer off, typically 1 3/4 to 2 inches off the top, and basically mill it and fill it. So you mill it off, then put brand new asphalt over the top. This is very selective where we do this because you're going to experience reflective cracking if you just put it over the binder layer, which is the bottom layer, which still has cracks in it. So over time, those cracks will reflect through, and it'll damage the surface. So we're pretty selective on how we use this. If you go to the next slide, we prefer the full depth pulverization method. This allows us to get through into the binder and remove all cracks that are potentially available. We also have the opportunity to undercut, which is taking soft spots out of the base of the roadway and make corrections to the base. It's like that song, It's All About the Base when it comes to roadways. So that's, yeah. So I'm not going to sing for sure. Tony likes to sing. But in all sincerity, it is about the base material. The asphalt is just the icing on the cake, and so that gives us the opportunity to proof roll and remove any soft spots in the base and make those corrections. We do most of the pulverization in-house with our pulverizer, which is starting to pay dividends. Basically, this year we're doing 2 extra roads because of that process. We're doing Christensen Way and Mellon this year because of that process. So we're really happy with that type of activity when it comes to pulverization because you don't get the reflective cracking and we can fix the base. Road reconstructions, so that's basically doing a full reconstruction of all the infrastructure or most of the infrastructure within the right-of-way. So that's new sidewalks, new curb and gutter, new roadway. Most of the time it's new base material. Also taking advantage of that opportunity to work with utilities and do all new water, sewer, storm sewer. So we have a couple of those projects going on right now with the DOT on East Main. Going into 2026, we have quite a few that we'll go through that are joint projects that are full reconstruction. So 2026, this is just an overview. It's kind of tough to see on the map, but we have quite a few projects on tap for 2026. The red on the right-hand side is the DOT projects, and then the green is the joint projects between streets and Stoughton Utilities. Then the white is pulverization projects that are on our own. Next slide. So stepping through these projects, Van Buren Street. So this is a continuation of the current project that we're doing on Van Buren. Right now we're doing from Roby to Creedeman. Next year is basically phase 2 to go from Creedeman to Gregg Trail. And so this actually is putting the road on a road diet. So we're using less asphalt, more pervious landscape, larger terraces, more opportunity for trees. Right now, the roadway is just way too wide. And so we're going to take this opportunity to shrink it down and make it a more appropriate width, which still allows for parking on both sides, but does not need to be that wide. So like I just said, it allows for larger terraces, more trees, less asphalt, less oils, type of thing. So it's coming together really nicely right now on this section of Van Buren. And we're looking to continue that next year to finish it off. Then the total cost on that from a streets perspective is $631,800, and then stormwater is $29,250. There she is. So there's definitely a need. Yeah, we do our best to try to patch it, but there's only so much that we can do. Main Page Court, so this is in line with the Jefferson Street Bridge replacement. Main Page Court is just off of Main Street. If you take a left, basically across the street from the Senior Center, there's a little alley to get to Main Page Court. I'm really not sure how the garbage trucks and delivery trucks get in there and get out, but they're good. So we're looking at basically removing the asphalt, fixing the base down there, and then repaving. Also adding some features, which I believe is on the next slide, for a turnaround in that area. On the right-hand side, if you can kind of see,
we're looking at acquiring some land and then creating a turnaround. We've already acquired one parcel, so we're looking at creating a turnaround for those trucks I just mentioned and also cars, so that they can safely get through that area, which is it's tight, it's very tricky. Also allowing for enhanced parking for the residents down there. That's more structured. Right now it's a little bit willy-nilly, if you will. So really trying to tie into the bridge and adding some structure, not only from the base of the roadway, but also from how people progress through that area.
Would that repave on that one happen before or after the bridge install?
Probably after, so we want to get construction done on the bridge first, and then we'll take off from that and work our way out.
Great.
I would anticipate the crane being set up on Jefferson Street and reaching over. There may be some minimal works. We have to do new abutments, so there's going to be some work on the west side, but we would do that afterwards and work our way essentially out of the project. Nygaard Street, well, we're going to move that to 2027, and so we can move on from that one. Racetrack Road, this is a great project. I wish Chief was here because it's a partnership with the town of Dunkirk. So essentially we own a portion of the roadway and Dunkirk owns a portion of the roadway. We did meet with Dunkirk and we have some initial design work that we did and showed them kind of what it would look like. We wanted to listen to some of their concerns. Obviously there's some parking concerns on the unurbanized section of the roadway, which is on the east side of the road. And that's the town of Dunkirk. And then also along the park, working with Tony, enhancing some parking on the west side of the road that we can hopefully kind of shift that parking so people want to park over there and not try to park in the grass. There's no parking signs up, but people still take their, decide to park where they shouldn't. So we're going to hope to steer some of that traffic or that parking traffic to the west side of the road. We're going to add bike lanes on the east side of the road throughout the whole corridor, a new multi-use path through the park that's in line with the master plan, the Racetrack Road or Racetrack Park master plan. So that'll work in conjunction with that whenever that's ready to go. So again, looking out for our pedestrian safety, working with urbanized and unurbanized areas, working with the township. I know financing obviously is a concern from the township, and they're working with our finance to come up with a plan to hopefully get this done. So the total project cost, we're looking at $1.6 million from the street side, then $429,000 from the stormwater side. Stormwater, we're looking at adding 2 bioretention basins to collect the stormwater, because we will be adding some curb and gutter along the park and along the path on the west side to delineate the road traffic or vehicle traffic from the pedestrian traffic. By doing so, we have to add basins. And they're going to be the bioretention basin variety. Anytime we can avoid wet basins, we're going to do that. And so that's what we're going to do in this scenario.
Are you going to curb and gutter all the way down there, or is that in the town area?
Yeah, so anything that's in the city will be curb and gutter. Anything that's not city will be non-curb and gutter or unurbanized. We will add a bike lane to the unurbanized section and then paint that, and hopefully that does curb some of the parking issues as well. If they see a symbol that says bike lane, people are more apt to not. People are people and do what they do, but that's where enforcement comes in as well.
Speaking of enforcement, that's a little bit of a speedway. Mm-hmm. Is there going to be any mitigation?
Great question. Next slide, please. So we do have 2 traffic refuge islands or pedestrian refuge islands that are going to be put in. One does not show on the screen, but we will have 2. One, there is a trail crossing kind of on the south end of the park, and so that'll be a pedestrian refuge island. Also serves as a traffic calming island. There is going to be 2 of those. I know Chief has had some of those speed boards up that he mentioned earlier in his presentation. Certainly we can put one of those in there if need be. But I do think the traffic calming islands will serve to help to curb that. We also talked with the township about working with them, enhancing the signage to deter trucks from going down that way. Obviously, we have a couple of industries that are on A that sometimes these truckers take liberties and try to take a shortcut. So we're going to try to curb that, and also working with police to enforce that. Not only our police, but also the sheriff. Yeah, it came to our attention that Racetrack Road may not be the most appropriate name for a roadway, and I never thought about it, to be honest. I have to agree. It's maybe something to consider. Obviously, changing a road name is not as easy as one would think, and but obviously something to. It was a Dunkirk resident actually came up with it. So, well, we'll see. That's something to consider. Any questions on that project? It's a pretty hefty one.
Yeah, I think part of the conversation too is we have large events down there. So I actually, briefly mentioned it to the chamber. So that would be a conversation you want to have. Sure. But I know Tony has a lot of activities there too. There's not a lot of access points to get to the park.
Yeah. Yeah, and so, if approved during construction, we've already talked about how we're going to phase it, how we're going to get them in. Talking with Tony, when do we start? Do we start after softball, after baseball type of thing? So it's different after soccer, of course. You can't forget about soccer. So we'll definitely take care of them first. But, the biggest thing is we got to make sure that we take care of our stakeholders, but we also get a good product and get it done as efficiently as possible. East McKinley Street, this is another kind of holdover, if you will. So this is between Prospect and Grant. Prospect and Grant were done, I think in 2022-ish, 23-ish, somewhere in there. In hindsight, this should have been done with it. So we're going to take the opportunity now to reconstruct this short section of street along with Stoughton Utilities. We are going to propose putting sidewalk on the north side of the road, not the south side, but the north side of the road. We'll go through Public Works for that and go through our policy. But that's going to be our staff recommendation, just because of topography, looking out for mature trees, looking at how the roadway is used or how the sidewalk network is currently used. So that one's $160,000. And of course, like I mentioned, this is in partnership with Stoughton Utility. There's the roadway. You can kind of see on the bottom right, on the left-hand side of that picture will be the sidewalk. Yep, through there. A little more flat too, more conducive to a sidewalk. I did group these next 4 projects together because they're in the Beyond Park area. So Taft, Wilson, Grant, Harding, and Sherman are all slated to be done together. We'll strategically do these as well, so we're not trapping anybody. But these are a joint project between Stoughton Utilities and us. So this is full reconstructs for the most part. There could be some opportunity for pulverization, but for the most part, all new curb and gutter. We'll look at opportunities for sidewalk as well, because there's very little sidewalk in here, and obviously we have a park. So we're gonna look at opportunities for sidewalk, enhanced stormwater on the Harding, which is the north part of that slide, or the top part of that slide, the photo. So all told, this is almost a $1.9 million project on the street side, then just over about 110,000 on the stormwater side. There's some pictures here. We got some major alligator cracking happening. Exposed flag of the curb. The curb in a lot of these portions is uneven, trapping water.
It looks like there's much of a crown there or something.
Yeah, and that's you'll see that in a lot of our roads. So the crown, for those of you guys that don't know, the center of the road really should be more elevated than the sides, so it creates a crown and sheds the water off to the sides. Again, water is our enemy, so we want to get the water off the surface as quickly as possible and into the curb and gutter to get it to our treatment areas. I just have a bunch of pictures in here about that area, or about the. All right, so the Highway 51 DOT project. I have a misspelling there, I apologize. It's a project.
It's French, right?
Yeah. So next year in 2026, we have two segments of the major projects going on. So the first one is from Harrison to Roby, and then Roby to B. And so within that, there's going to be some geometrical changes to the roadway, a twiddle, which is a center lane, turn lane in a good portion of the roadway. So basically a full reconstruction from Harrison all the way around to BAB, but in our area, it's just going to be B. There'll be a roundabout at both B and Rutland Duntown line, which is a great thing. I know some of you guys, or most of you guys have taken the 51 and B intersection. It is horrible. And I think there's a lot of crash data to support, obviously, a roundabout, which is a much more controlled intersection type. There also will be a pedestrian underpass just to the north of Rutland Duntown line. That will be essentially paid for with some developer funds. I think it's mostly TIF, but it'll be supported through that. So really concrete the whole way through again. So another long-lasting improvement. But we have all new lighting that'll be going in as well throughout this corridor. 10-foot wide multi-use paths on both sides of 51, basically from Jertson around to the north. Will be either 8-foot or 10-foot wide path, depending on the area. So a lot of great enhancements. We've already started to kind of talk to our partners in the community. We'll have more enhanced meetings with them to discuss the project and what to look out for. We'll have a stakeholder every other week. Right now, I have stakeholder meetings with those that are in the project areas that are on the basically a virtual call with the DOT and the contractor, so they can get updated on what's going on, and then also ask questions of the DOT or the contractor. That's really paid dividends. We have the hospital and folks from Scotland on the call. That's really worked out well, and we'll continue that going forward. Yeah, so these are slides for the DOT. So these are the typical sections. So Harrison to Kings Lynn basically will be reconstructed, urban cross section, and then a two-way left turn lane. That's that twiddle I was talking about. So basically you'll have that middle lane that'll be used for turning. If you ever have pulled up to on 51 and pulled up to Van Buren or 138, and if you're stuck in that middle lane, if somebody's turning, they're going to sit there, but you can't go around them. So this will basically have a through way on the right-hand side that everybody has to take unless you're taking that turn. If you're in that turn, you're solely there for turning, not going straight. There are some safety enhancements with that as well, and also helps to make the flow of traffic a little bit more smooth. And then Harrison to Kings Lynn, this will be a 4-lane. Yeah, where we at? Yep, Harrison to Hole will be a 4-lane. This will be, so when the construction happens, this will also be done under traffic. So they're not going to be, if you guys remember in 2020, when they did the construction out there and basically did an overlay, they did under traffic, so they never closed traffic down. That'll be the case from basically Van Buren to the west through the project. And then at Van Buren, we'll have a local detour set up that'll take traffic from on Van Buren to 138 to Milwaukee Street to 4th Street, and then back around to Main Street. Slide. So yeah, Jackson to B. So basically, Holtz Road. Actually, I think that's the next slide. I'll hold off on that one. So this will be from a 2-lane to a 4-lane section that'll be reconstructed. All new lighting. Like I said before, we'll also do a 10-foot multi-use path on both sides of the roadway. So and then enhanced stormwater. There'll be a couple stormwater basins throughout this corridor, or stormwater basins for us to take care of. The way it goes. Oh yeah, go ahead. That one. So that's the Holtz Road intersection. So those of you that have gone to Walmart, kind of by our Aldi's in that area, that is very confusing and just, it can be done better. So we're going to take this opportunity to improve that intersection. Basically, there's going to be a median put in on the west side of 51 on Jackson. There'll be a right in, right out at Holtz Road going into the car dealerships. We did have conversations with them early on and kind of talked to them about this could be a possibility. They, believe it or not, they were all for it as long as truck traffic can make that turn. So that'll be happening. And then the lighting will be enhanced, and then we'll be actually taking that lighting on from a maintenance standpoint through an agreement with the DOT. So this is just showing the roundabouts that we discussed. So obviously the one at Rutland Dunn Town Line and then one at B. Speed limits will be reduced as well. Right, and I'm not sure if I touched on that. I think it's at 35 miles an hour. And that's up to B. So if we ever get connecting highway to B, basically we can be under local control and we can dictate the speed limit, so we could bump it down if we wanted to. So at Roby, essentially we have control and we could bump it down if we wanted to 25 or keep it at 35. We have that latitude. Any questions on the DOT project? There's going to be a lot more coming for this and a lot more meetings with the DOT, but just rest assured that we are doing everything we can to work with our partners in the business community and our residents along the corridor. The DOT is constantly sending stuff out. There's been meetings for the last, 15 years on this project, and it's really been enhanced the last couple of years.
Yeah, if you haven't gone to the public informational meetings, I think those are really good. You know, I think some of you have. There's one coming up.
Yeah, so for phase 3, this year for phase 3, from Church Street to 5th Street, there's a public information meeting on September 8th from 5 to 7. That's at the Senior Center Annex. So that'll be Monday the 8th. And so everybody on the corridor, anybody within the project gets a mailed letter to help or to come talk about the project, that they know what's happening, that they can get basically contact information. I've tried to reach out to as many people on the corridor as I can to get information to them, also to get them on our biweekly call. Just trying to keep them in the loop, and if they got any questions, to please ask and talk to us or the project team from the DOT. Believe it or not, the DOT is very receptive to taking calls and to understand what the challenges are, because you're reconstructing a street and there's businesses. They've worked with the hospital and Scotland, Quick Trip on the phase 2. It's gone well. Obviously, there's some challenges, but we'll do whatever we can to help lessen the impact of construction. All right, the asphalt overlay. Oh,
Sorry. Before you move on, I just want to point out in the CIP list that is in front of you, Van Buren is in 2027 in the list. So including that in 2026 would increase where we're at 15.3 million to 15.9.
Yeah, I guess you tell me. Yeah, right. That's right. Yeah, no matter if it's 26 or 27, it needs to get done. So wherever it fits, obviously, we can discuss all that. All right, so our asphalt overlay program, I mentioned that earlier, and right now this is just to showcase what we're doing with these dollars. So basically, we're doing this kind of on our own with our pulverizer machine. So taking advantage of that, we're able to do Christensen Way and Mellom this year, and then next year we do have a couple different roads that we're eyeing to do. And I'm not trying to be secretive, but they'll be coming to Public Works to really discuss where the priorities are. But these are roads that do not have a utility component, roads that don't have a lot of curb and gutter issues, so not a lot of concrete issues, roads that we can just go in there and basically grind. We can shape and then do undercutting on in-house, and then have a contractor come in and do the asphalt. So these are pretty much those down and dirty roadways just to get a new surface on them, but don't have a lot of concrete or underground components to them. So here's just a showcase of what we're looking at. The curb and gutter is in good shape, but the asphalt is alligatoring. We got a little bit of rutting going on, but those are things that we can correct in-house. Sidewalk replacement program, we got a good start on it this year, and we really need to keep up on this, or else we're going to fall farther and farther behind. We're looking at devoting $150,000 to our sidewalk program. This year, we took care of any legacy sidewalk issues that we knew about. So basically, if somebody were to call in, they would tell us, hey, there's a sidewalk issue here. We would do basically a temporary patch. And some of these were happened years ago that we decided that we need to do something permanent to take care of them. Also, the longer we let this go, the more liability we potentially have from a city. So this year, we took care of that entire list. We got rid of it all, did everything, and it was sporadic through the whole city. Now we have a good base, essentially. We're going to do it systematically, and we have the city broke up into basically 6 different areas. I was going to say quadrants, but it's not a quad, but 6 different areas. And so we're going to go through systematically and get one area done at a time. And we'll stay in that area as long as it takes to get it done, because $150,000 may seem like a lot. It goes very quickly. It just depends on the need of that area. So we're looking for your support on that, because that truly is, if we're going to be a pedestrian-friendly community, these are the types of things that we really need to do. Roadway preventative maintenance. This is our crack filling, doing some patching with our patchmobile, also doing some asphalt work. So we do small patches with this money. Crack filling is everything when it comes to protecting our roadways. Basically, by preventing that water from getting into the base, puts that curve out when it comes to roadway life. So instead of 15 years, maybe we can get 18 or 20 years out of that roadway. So we have a pretty aggressive crack filling program. So basically, every 2 years, a roadway with a PACER rating of 5 or greater is going to get touched. And so a lot of places, they'll crack fill 1 year and call it good forever. Well, in 2 or 3 years, that crack could expand or new cracks can form. And so we feel that coming back to those roadways and just touching them up is a good practice. And we've actually got really good or favorable bids to do this. The mayor just signed one today. So we're really looking at carrying this program forward. It's really paid dividends for us in the past, and we look to continue that. Equipment replacement. So we have a scoring mechanism that we use through our RTA program. So every piece of equipment that we have is in the program. We keep track of all the maintenance that's done to it, its useful life. If it's been a problematic piece of equipment, how it's used is all data that we keep in our program. And then essentially we can take that, and it gives us, quantifies it into a number, and then we can take that number and just use that as a tool. Because we also talk about the equipment. Is it the right piece of equipment, or do we need to go in a different direction? So this is just a tool that we use to identify the trucks or pieces of equipment that have to be replaced. So just real quickly, we have about 180 plus pieces of equipment that rolls through our shop. So we take care of not only our equipment, but also Stoughton Utilities, police, fire, EMS, and then general services. We're looking at replacing patrol truck number 14. So this is a 2012 International. This right now is in our 15-year life cycle. Our new trucks are 20-year life cycle, so we're putting more stainless steel, not only in the bed like this has, but also in the chassis. All of our braided lines are stainless steel. Our tanks that house some of our equipment are plastics versus some metals. So we're looking at building new trucks that last a lot longer. Yes, there's some more upfront capital, but we're going to get 5, 6 more years out of them. We have to. The price of these trucks is going up, and it's not going to go down anytime, well, ever. I was going to say anytime soon, but never. With all the emissions upgrades too that are slated to take place in 2027, we are trying to beat that. We're getting some information that it could be upwards of $20,000 for these new emission standards that are coming down the pipeline. So not only is it needed, we're also trying to beat that and order these trucks and get them on order before that happens.
Good question. Do you know if are you guys scoring the utilities vehicles? We had a meeting today and there was, I didn't get a definite yes or no.
We'll have to talk to Bryce about that. I've never asked him for it, so I'm not sure if he, the biggest thing with the RTA program is you have to have good data in it. It's crap in, crap out type of thing. So I'm not sure what kind of data, because we just took them on as, customers, if you will, a few years ago.
All right, I'll follow up on that one.
Sure. So right now, these trucks are running about $280,000. Pre-COVID, we were paying about $195 to $210, somewhere in there. So you can just see the increase. There's been some emissions increases, COVID, obviously, and so that's kind of where they're at right now. We did build one in-house 2 years ago. And it worked for us because we couldn't get it built anywhere else because of COVID and backlogs and some stuff in the industry. So we did build one in-house. However, we proved we can do it, but you're also taking one of those mechanics off the normal core job and putting them on this task. So
you call them patrol trucks. Most people call them plow trucks.
Yeah. When I first came here, I called them a plow truck, but now I've kind of bought into
You use them for more than plowing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So these trucks are used all year round. I mean, I think most people look at these and say it's a plow truck, but we use these to haul aggregates. We pulverize Mellon and Christensen Way. We use these to haul off the excess aggregate, haul new stuff back in. We do have a tandem variety of this, which is 2 rear tires, a little bit bigger capacity. So we definitely use these and put them to work all year round so they don't sit. I got a comment about that a couple years ago. We had our open house at the building, and the comment was that these trucks just sit. Why do we have so many? And all these trucks don't just sit. We put them to work and put them to use. We're definitely doing more in-house type work because we have to. So we're definitely using these all year round. So this last slide actually was an addition to the fleet. I think I kept 14 on there, but there was 2 different slides. I just want to be transparent about that. We are looking to add an additional truck. This map shows where we've come from a development standpoint, and the green is recent development that is now online that we have to take over within the last couple of years. The yellow is under construction right now. That's STI, so that's under construction right now. That'll be coming online. We'll have some roads actually this winter, but the majority will be probably in winter 2027, 26, 27. The red is development that is, out there that we potentially know about. Nothing's, yet gonna happen, but it could kick off. So right now we are at basically the limit. So any extra is, potentially less, delivery of service goes down the more you have and the less equipment you have and the less staff you have. So I will preface that by saying that by having a truck, you need somebody to drive the truck as well. And so obviously through the, the staffing plans and everything like that, that also has to get enhanced. We are also right now training more people to drive, for CDL licensure. Tracy Wam is actually getting his license. He's our facility maintenance person. Anybody else that wants to get it? I know Lisa was asking about it the other day, wanting to get it. So.
I would love to, but I'm gonna hit mailboxes and vehicles.
Yeah.
You can still do ride-along, so.
Yeah, for sure, yeah. So, yeah.
Sam, too.
Sam's getting, Sam's on our parks crew, he's getting his as well. So, and we're looking at opportunities, even the utility potentially to help out. So, obviously with more territory or more road miles, comes more maintenance and more need for staffing and equipment.
How many times did you go out last year in the truck?
Me?
Yeah.
0. We had like 3 events, so.
You had a good year then.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have to go out at all. So I'll jump in a truck. It's, it's all hands on deck when we have an event. Obviously it's something that affects every door, so that's something we take seriously, and we try to do our best to get it done the most efficient way we know how. With that comes staffing and equipment.
I think the biggest thing with the snowfalls, and we'll probably talk about that when we get closer to winter, is if you get contacted, just let them know that somebody will be in touch. Brett is amazing at following up and giving a response and trying to understand and take that as an opportunity.
Yep, continuous improvement. I mean, we're definitely, don't do everything right. We do a lot right, but there's always things that we can do better.
Christina's got a question online.
Yeah, I was wondering if those trucks come with adjustable pedals, Brett?
For you, we will do whatever it takes. We'll put some blocks on there or whatever. Great question. I will say they are adjustable. My previous employer had a person that was very short, and they worked just fine for him. So, yep, they're made for all people of all shapes and sizes.
I'm in.
All right, perfect. So truck number 52, so that's what we call a 1-ton type truck. And so that has basically a smaller truck that has a dump bed on it. This is a 2011, which has reached the end of its useful life. It's shown it's wore out. It's a 15-year truck. And so we're looking at replacing this with an F450. We do take into account the payload that these chassis can handle. We found that a lot of what they call 1-ton were never really built to handle a load. When you put anything in and it's overloaded. So we do spec the chassis in taking the body weight into account and also the payload weight when we spec our trucks. And so right now we're at F450s is kind of that sweet spot for the bed and then payload. And so also these trucks do pull trailers. Sometimes if we pull a trailer with a load and it gets over 26,000 pounds, we're into the Class A CDL holders. And so these trucks do that. So we make sure that we spec these trucks so that they hold up and can last 15 years without being essentially tired at the end. So we are looking at actually adding a zero-turn mower for a couple different reasons. One, we have more turf to mow. The second one is we are trying to keep some of the hours off of our current zero-turn, which is a much more expensive zero-turn. It also has a puller track unit on it. And the puller track is used in the winter months, so it has a cab. And then, if you go to the next slide, I think I have a picture of it. So it has so that's the zero turn on the left-hand side that we use in the summer months. The cab and wheels go over that. You take the deck off, and then you put the cab over the top, and it bolts on there. And then you have a plow, a broom, or a V-plow we can put on there. We use this downtown. These are very expensive, and so what we're trying to do is get a less expensive zero turn to use that in the summer months, and put hours on that. We'll put some hours on the Toro zero turn with the puller track. However, the bulk of it will be done with this unit. And the reason being is if we need to get another zero turn, that cab will not fit on the new format essentially for the zero turn. So the old cab, we were able to put on our zero turns for a couple of different model years. That will no longer be the case. And believe it or not, those cabs and all the wheels and everything, that's about a $36,000 addition. And so we're trying to prolong the life of this as long as possible so we don't have to replace that zero turn, thus have to replace that puller track component. So strategically, we're looking at prolonging the life of this so we can keep it, also enhancing the fleet so that we can have more out there, but keeping some of the hours so that green one, the John Deere, will be our primary mower. This will be kind of a secondary and then also used in the winter. The tool cat blower, this is an attachment for the tool cat. So as you guys know, we're enhancing our trails more and more. With that comes maintenance, and to do that maintenance, we're looking at the most efficient way possible to clear these trails. So this is essentially a hydraulic blower that goes on the front of our tool cats, and so we can efficiently blow off the trails, especially in the fall. So we've talked to some other communities, and these are the best that they can get for this type of activity. The street roller, so right now we have a small, what they call a whacker. And so this is a small 2-drum roller that has essentially reached the end of its useful life. And we're taking this opportunity to get a larger single drum wheeled roller. Do that 5 times fast. So this can be used during our pulverization projects. Right now we're renting a roller. Basically it's about $3,000 to rent a roller for I think it's 2 weeks. And so we're looking at getting a used roller that we can use during our pulverization projects. We're also looking at the size of the roller so it can fit on our trailer that we have, which is a 15,000-pound trailer. So we've already kind of scoped out a couple, and we have our eye on a few. So essentially this will, again, allow us to do more in-house work. We don't need a 2-wheeled roller, small roller like that, because Stoughton Utilities also has that same whacker roller. We have a good partnership with them that we can certainly use as an opportunity to share some equipment. So during the replacement of this, we'd like to go to a larger single drum wheeled roller. Street sweeper, so this is what we call a Pelican mechanical sweeper. So essentially this doesn't have any suction. It just basically has a broom that brushes debris into the containment area. So the whole point of street sweeping is to get the aggregates out of the road, get the fines off the road. This leaves a lot of fines behind, and all those fines make their way into the storm sewer system. This is at the end of its useful life. And so we'd like to take this opportunity to transition into let me get this right, a regenerative air product. So essentially it creates suction and air that goes across the pavement to get all the fine material out of the roadway, and that doesn't end up in our storm sewer system. So that's right now we're looking at $385,000 for that, and that'll come of our stormwater fund. Any questions on equipment? We are almost done, I promise. Unless you have a lot of questions about the roof.
No. Just ones with like the F-450 and the street sweeper in there. Are the order times as long as they had been?
Much better, much better. So even the chassis with the plow trucks, we're looking at about a year. The problem with like the plow trucks is getting them into the body upfitter. So right now we have a chassis that's actually being built. The chassis we have, the body will not be put on probably until the winter of 2026, 27. So that's where the backlog is, and there's only so many places that do it. So that's why we did one ourselves. we know we can do it, and push comes to shove, we can do it in-house. It takes about 6 months of time to do it, and then that opportunity cost that we saved, we've lost in our core activities. But
You could
but
get
it's gotten
some-
much better, but especially the Ford chassis have gotten much better.
Mhm.
Because at a certain point, they were limiting the amount that we could actually purchase.
Right.
So right now, it's kind of,
Maybe you could get some of those blower attachments on the patrol truck for those light snow
yes,
events. And
yeah. There we go. Facilities, and if I don't know the answer to your questions on facilities, I will get back to you. Tracy's our expert on facilities, and a lot of these things are the things that he recommended that we put in there, along with the study that we had done. So these are 2026 items. The fire station, de-stratification fans. Actually, in 2026, we had de-strat fans in the budget for, I think it was $10,000. That was woefully underfunded. So we've worked with a vendor. It's not the big ass fans, but yes, they're expensive. Yeah, I know. We can put a sticker on there that says that maybe. But we have looked at that in more depth, and we have a good product. Unfortunately, it is more expensive. I'm not sure if we have carryover dollars from 26 to. Okay, gotcha. So that's that in the fire station. Replacing the electric drawdown cords. So this is in conjunction with Chief Rip. So basically the cords, I think there were some issues with those, maybe shorting out or being frayed. So we're looking at replacing all of those. Replacing an obsolete HVAC control system. Those are the items that we just got our numbers back last week. And so it is $58,000 to replace the controls in the facilities. The controls are essentially becoming obsolete. You can't get replacement parts for them. The iView software has to be updated. I'm going to go into software, I think. That's the place to be. It's obsolete, and at a certain point, we can't use our control systems anymore and can't control the HVAC system. Opera House, we're looking at doing some tuck pointing in the building. We've allocated $100,000 to do that. The chandelier electric winch, again, that was one that was in the 2026 program. We realized that, again, that was underfunded. We had basically a stage rigging company come in and take a look at it, and that's going to be about what it is to do it right. Obviously, we need to protect the Opera House, protect our staff first and foremost. So this will essentially, for those of you guys that were on the CIP committee last year, currently Bill Brehm has to crawl in the attic and lower there's two chandeliers, has to lower them basically with a boat winch down to the floor to change the lights and clean them. And it is ridiculous. So obviously from a liability standpoint, protecting our guests and protecting obviously the chandelier, this is something we need to do. We're going to look for grants for this as well through CIVMIC. I think we can get either a $5,000 or $10,000 grant to do this. So if we get that, we can offset some of those costs. And while we're up there doing the attic insulation, working with our partners up there, the bath, we'll try to see what we can do. Next slide, please. Opera House continued. Stairway carpet. This was a Bill Brehm deal, and so there's some carpeting. It's actually a special carpet that goes up the stairs. That's in need of replacement. As you can imagine, everybody has to go up those stairs that can to get to the auditorium, and so there's a lot of traffic that goes through there. The east side windows, we're looking at replacing that. This year, we're hoping to replace the west side and the north side of the building. Working through landmarks and all that, it's a process. So we're hopeful to get that done. If not, we may be carrying some dollars over into next year. And again, in the Opera House, replacing obsolete HVAC controls. This one's a little bit less of a hit at $18,000. And I did include HVAC controls for public safety at 45 because these are somewhat connected. So we're looking at all these control systems are all becoming obsolete. So unfortunately, we have to do something about it and have to bite the bullet.
Can I interrupt for just a
Yeah.
second? I'm sorry to put you on the spot. We've been through so many versions of this.
Yeah.
But just so we're getting our numbers straight, in this version, the tuck point is in 2027 for 100,000. So just note if we do include that, if it's goes to move to 2026, we would be increasing the number 100,000.
If it's in 27, we should
Okay,
leave it
in there?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know if there
I may
was-
have read
okay.
it wrong.
Oh, that's fine. And then just one more quick question. I'm sorry I didn't bring this up with equipment. There is a street patcher blower motor in
Yeah.
2026 for
Yeah, that
12,000.
remains. I
No,
failed to
that's
put it
fine. I
here.
just want to
Yeah.
make sure we have.
So, yeah, real
Okay.
quickly, we do have a blower mower that we did add kind of late, and that it's essentially a blower that blows the aggregate out of the machine. It's $12,000, and it's one of those things that we have a reconditioned one in there now that we're limping it along, but we're trying to prolong the life of this unit because these are $250,000 trucks. So it's a blower that is from Europe. So we're trying to source it from America because we're having a tough time getting it. So that's been a little bit of a challenge. But yeah, thanks for bringing that up.
You
I
took the
apologize.
travel screen out, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we were successful in our acquisition of the trommel. So we got a fair deal, I think. We came in below what we were allowed to spend. So that was a successful item. We're pleased with it. We have it already here.
And then the chief said the signs are 3,000 apiece, so it should have been a total of 6. I think that's what we had on the spreadsheet.
So the library, as Jim mentioned, we're looking at the roof replacement with a membrane, roof replacement. So we're looking at replacing that with a membrane roof, probably EPDM. Now, if there's different materials out there, we'll certainly look at those. I know there's different colors that have been used, and of course, we need to work with any landmark type stuff. For example, on our roof, we have a white membrane roof with the solar panels, so those seem to work well with each other. Just that reflective heating, or it was actually recommended by SunPeak. So we can look at that type of stuff. Obviously, we got to be careful in that area. Yeah, back real quick. Yep. So then also we're looking at doing a solar installation. As Jim mentioned, there still could be some federal incentives through 2027, I think we're hearing. So if we can get this one essentially under contract, we can have till I think December 31st, 2027 to get it done. So we're looking at getting done in 2026, of course. Also, there's some focus on energy dollars. About $1,500 or so, or $1,400, which is not nothing. So we'll take it. Then obviously Jim mentioned that they have a gift for us potentially at about 50% up to $40,000. So that could lessen our amount on the city side.
The roof at the senior center is looking good.
Yeah, that's if you didn't know that it was metal and the annex is done, you didn't know it was metal, you probably couldn't tell. So the annex portion is complete. The main roof structure, they're waiting for the brackets to come in for the solar panels. Those are on back order. They should be in hopefully this week, and they can start again. But it looks really good.
With the library roof currently, is the old section and new section, are those a uniform type or are they different type?
I think they're different vintages, but I think they're the same kind of membrane style roof. But I don't know if it's like a different brand or something like that, but there are two separate ones. And forgive me, I don't know the year that they were put on. That'd be a good thing to know, but they are obviously at the end of their useful life. We have some leaks that have been.
Yeah, the other thing we're going to want to do is if we can, is to calculate what our utility savings are gonna be when we get to the operations portions of the budget.
Sure.
Because that might be freeing up some money
Yeah.
for some other things.
Yeah, the fire station is one of them this year. It's, you need a season or two under your belt to kind of really quantify that. But we should know, based on their calculations, if it's 60% or 70% reduction in electrical use, then, we can look to do that type of stuff on the operating side. Also cognizant that you look at about a 3%, 2.8% roughly increase in electrical costs every year. So there's kind of that too you got to take into account. But yes. Senior center, stucco repair and building painting. So there is, it is stucco on the bottom. The white portion is stucco. There is some repair that has to get done and then repaint it. So
I've been doing a survey, so if you guys have a preference on colors, let us know.
yeah, I'm not going to decide that. I'm not getting in the middle of that.
I think no matter what we paint it, we're gonna get feedback.
For sure. So, and there's some eaves. Some of the eaves need some work. If you look up there, some of the wood is starting to rot. So all that will be corrected. Then carpet on the main floor, and that's Cindy request. That's it. That's all I got.
It was less than an hour.
I thought 7:43. I'm
Is
late.
it?
Tony went long. But yeah, any questions? If you think about something later too, feel free to email me or give me a call.
All right, with all the presentations, now this is the time for questions on anything we've done in both of the meetings.
I have a question for Brett. I was wondering the age of the zero-turn puller track and if you have an equipment score for that one. Okay, and one other question, for Racetrack Road, I think the number that you had in your slides is different than the line item number. By about 600K, so it's pretty significant. Okay. Oh, sure, because Dunkirk is listed as a separate line item. That might be what it is. Yeah, okay.
Yep.
So you can see $1.6 million in stormwater. Or stuff being any other sign.
Yeah, for Dunkirk, that amount's about twice of what they normally budget for all their road construction for a season. So that's why we're having conversations, because we know that if they're unable to participate and we can't get the project going, the cost is just gonna go up next year. So we're trying to figure out a win-win situation with them. And
Did you want me
Lisa's-
to speak about that?
If you want, yeah.
So we can issue debt for the full amount, and Dunkirk can reimburse us. So that's not a problem. It'll be working with Dunkirk and the payback and a benefit for them that they might want to consider is, as part of our debt issue, doing a promissory note to us, because right now they do have it where they are just levying for this amount. But should they need to offset and increase levy, they can do a debt adjustment, like what we do for that amount should they need to free up that money. So we can issue the debt for the full amount. They can pay us back. Just some benefits to Dunkirk that we want to make sure that they're aware of.
Yeah, so I think we have to, I don't know if we're gonna need direction from the council on that, or if we just have that conversation and bring the information back, or how we want to handle that, like process-wise. But I think they're gonna probably want to have that laid out in a way where they'll be able to explain it to their constituents if they decide to participate in that manner. So, you know, if you guys have any thoughts about that, we certainly will feedback and how we should go through that process, because I don't know if we've done that before. We don't share that many roads. What do we share? 2 with Dunkirk?
Yeah, and this is a big one. Usually it's them coming to us to participate in some of their stuff. Like rather than Duntown Line, we did some work with them because we had a small section. This is a little bit unique from what I know.
I mean, the biggest thing is we kind of like to know if you guys are at least open to that idea before we get too deep into it.
Yeah, I think that sounds like a reasonable approach for it. You know, we want to have, you don't want to like fix 3/4 of the road and leave a fourth of it
It's
looking
a patchwork
garbagey.
too.
So
Yeah, it doesn't like stop and then start. It's like half the road is theirs, half of it's ours, and it goes back and forth. It's like a patchwork of
right,
yeah,
right.
rural and urban. So.
Yeah, I mean, I would say just work out some agreement with them if it's promissory note or whatever it happens to be with them. You know, I know if that's twice what they're used to budgeting for, that's going to be hard for them to adjust to that.
I mean, and the other thing, and this came up during the conversation, is there's a lot of collaboration going on with them on other things already.
They appreciate our relationship, you know, the cities and their relationship.
Well, and that'll be, I mean, as more stuff gets added on over on that side too, you know, that's going to become a pretty thoroughfare through there. I mean, it is already, but
Yeah.
you know, we want it to look nice and function well too.
I did have, just so you know, I did have a preliminary conversation with utilities about putting some things underneath the road that would ultimately serve the urban service area amendment that we did for Matson. So we wouldn't have to tear up the road to add that. We should follow up on that, but the folks at utilities seem to think that was a good conversation to have.
Yep, perfect.
All right. Lisa, do you have an update on where we're at?
With adding Van Buren, if we add that back in 2026, and that's a choice to make, I don't know if you have a preference of it being in.
I will tell you if we need to push it for, you know, for fiscal reasons to 27, it can do that. So if we have to.
Is that the one you would want to push?
Yeah,
or are there
that's what I
others?
would. So we but you know, Niagara we moved, but also, you know, just looking at, you know, traffic volumes. If we had to take a priority, you know, moving Van Buren, I think would be my choice if you had.
So when we were looking at the total amount of debt where we originally started, we identified some of the road construction that wasn't tied to the DOT, that wasn't planned to have utility work done at the same time, and move those to a later year to lessen the amount that we're already issuing or planning to issue.
Yeah, I think what's really making it challenging is, you know, is the work along the river and the remediation and the RDA site, which, you know, ultimately will recapture some of those dollars from the RDA site through increment, but we have to really make the investment now in order to be able to move forward on that development. Typically, you know, this group makes a recommendation if they want, or you could have another meeting and make it done. And then I still take the time to scrub it. There's some things in there that we've had conversations with the department heads and we're still waiting for some more information. So one example would be is the down payment for the ladder truck. we have a number that's plugged in there right now that is kind of a placeholder. We don't know if that number is firm or not, depending on who they might ultimately order the truck from. That number could change. So we're still waiting for that type of information to come in. And we would go through that process between now and November 1st. So if you guys make a recommendation tonight, what we would do is anything that we would change between now and the night we would approve the budget, we would, put that as part of the presentation so you can kind of see where we were and where we're at the end. And certainly at that point, you still would have the opportunity to amend it if you so choose. It would just be cleaner to get feedback now or sometime between now and November if there's something that you think about, like, oh, maybe we should do this instead. I think all the department heads would be open to hear that, because obviously it's a large amount. We have the borrowing capacity to do it, but the more you borrow, if we're doing, let's say they're 20-year notes or whatever the combination is, ultimately that's getting paid back through the levy at some point in the point of time. Spreading it out helps ease the pain, but it does affect the mill rate. And when we get to the operations budget, we'll have a similar conversation, although we're very limited on the operations of what we can do. We have a couple options, but not a ton. So typically what's been happening is the operations mill rate has been going down because the levy limits and then property values are going up. Last year we saw an increase in the mill rate because we had some heavy borrows. But the other thing that's going on, as you all know, is the price of everything just continues to rise, and that's really a challenge for us when things are up, 20% and, and could be more. There's so much uncertainty right now, especially the stuff that's coming in overseas. Hopefully these numbers are good, but we're also, just so on a side note, we're also reviewing our purchasing policies as well. So we're going to work with Stoughton Utilities, and I know libraries, you have your own purchasing policy as well. We'd like to have some more uniformity going on. We have people using different versions or parts of two different ones. So we're working on that. That was one thing I discovered through working with Stoughton Utilities. So I think there's a great opportunity for some collaboration to update those policies and have some consistency and make sure we're getting good bids, before we get into the CIP process. So we're not changing as many numbers later. So that's one of my goals for next year. But otherwise, process-wise, I think somebody has their hand up, but process-wise, that's kind of how we typically go about it. You guys make a recommendation. I'll do some further scrubbing. Hopefully these guys won't wake up tomorrow and say, oh, I forgot to include this. That could happen too. Or maybe we get more information on remediation costs, so we have to adjust those numbers, hopefully down, but likely up. That seems to be the trend lately. So that's kind of how it works.
All right.
All right.
What do you got, Regina?
Couple of things. One, I guess before I make a decision or recommendations, I'd really like to sit with all the information and the updated spreadsheet to kind of go through it. If we are still looking at trying to eliminate like close to $3 million, that's not something I want to do on the fly. I want to be very thoughtful of it. And secondly, with respect to the RDA site, where is it reflected that we might be able to do some borrowing from TIF, I think, was it TIF, the Walmart KPW TIF to offset some of those costs? Is that reflected into the spreadsheet as well?
So the amendment is moving forward right now, and what that means is that it is planned with the issuance of the 2.2 million that TID 7 could donate enough to TID 8 to cover those costs. So it wouldn't show in here in that manner. This is how much we're, the projects we're doing, how much debt we're going to issue. But it would still be a TID 8 expense TID 7 is planned to cover all the costs that include the 2.2 million in this for 2026.
Okay, great. I guess I need to like really spend more time on the spreadsheet to see where, I mean, we have a lot of proposals out there and trying to figure out which is the column for that we're borrowing. Are we trying to limit our borrowing to 11 to 12 million, or over all the project, whether they're paid for through grants or other TIDs or whatever, to be in that as well? I guess I'm uncertain on what number we're actually working at and what our goal is.
The previous goal was 11 to 12 million. That's what's been recommended in the past. When we're looking at the total amount of the projects here, just doing a quick estimate, that would not be levy would be about 3.2 million. So take that off of the 15.2, so we're closer to the 12 million mark. So it's hard to keep that amount when you have a large TID project that's 2.2 million, and then you have the stormwater that's about $1 million. So the amount that really would impact the levy would be about 13 million, the amount of debt we would levy for. So while the total amount affects our capacity, and we are doing great with our capacity, especially seeing the large equalized value increase for this year. So where we were projected to maybe be at like 56% of our capacity, with the equalized value increase, we're still at about 50% of our capacity.
So what I'm hearing is we're probably within $1 million, and all things considered, that's not bad considering some of the initiatives that we have in here. That's how I would take it. I don't know. I don't want to speak for you though.
Nope, I would agree. I'm not necessarily concerned about us going over the 12 million mark, knowing that 2.2 of this amount is for TID 8 and then another $1 million for stormwater. So it's not all levy supported debt.
And I feel confident that, like I said, there's other numbers that are in there that we might be able to trim. You know, I don't think it's going to be $1 million worth, but it could be, you know, close to $500,000, depending on. The big one is that fire engine. That's the big number. And if we only have to put 100,000 down versus 500,000, that's a big chunk of money. So we're still trying to gather that information.
So I guess maybe we, once you get all those numbers and you're able to get the true cost of things, is that when we meet, if there's still like a $500,000 overage that we need to figure out what to move on to a different year? Is that what you're saying? I'm trying to get my head around what we need to do tonight.
Yeah, I think, you know, the thought was is if we couldn't decide tonight, we could decide and have a meeting next week, but we wouldn't necessarily have to do that. We have until November, but, you know, for finance, I guess I would ask, you know, finance, you know, when do you really need to have the recommendation and this part of the budget wrapped up? So that's kind of the question I would have. You know, statutorily, we don't have to vote on it until like the first week in November, so we're only in August, so I think we're time-wise, we're in decent shape. Do you have any thoughts about that, Lisa, as far as, I mean, we wouldn't have to make a decision tonight. We wouldn't even have to meet next week. We might want to wait, you know, a few weeks in order to get the rest of this information so we can address the concerns that Regina's brought.
We can wait it doesn't have to be next week, but to move forward with the budget, are we assuming these? Because some of these costs affect stormwater budget. We can't finalize a stormwater budget until we know what the CIP amount is going to be. So, well, I guess, do we have to meet next week? No, but at some point we need to know what we can move forward with when we're doing budgeting.
So I guess the question is, you know, would you guys prefer to chew on it, or would you prefer to have me go ahead and submit my version, which would be based on what we have here, probably making a few reductions and then bringing it back in November? Doesn't really matter to me. It's more or less trying to give finance the direction they need in order to complete their work.
And looking at this more, I forgot about the two TID 9, TID 8 for Dvorak, and STI is also in there. So that would be TID supported, and that's another 1.2 million of this.
So you're talking about the underpass and that work?
Yep.
So
that part.
we won't issue debt for that.
Well, depending what the repayment is, but I'm assuming we would issue debt.
Mm-hmm.
The developers are on the hook. I don't know what's in the agreements and how that's supposed to be worked out, but if we're issuing the debt and they're reimbursing us somehow, it would.
They are. What we would do
TIDs.
is we'd have Rick review the developer agreements and the MROs that are in them and see what triggers that.
So
And Dvorak's is probably closer at this point than STI maybe, but we'd have to look for sure.
So I guess my point is that wouldn't be levy supported either, that portion, another 1 point. What? Oh, sorry, 1.7. Sorry, I'm looking at the above line. So actually another 1.7.
Then I had a question on the timing, and this goes back to what you talked about with the Jefferson Street Bridge. So we give you an outline of the dollar amount, and then when does the debt get issued? Because if between now and then we would find out that this grant came in, that's what, another 450,000 that had been
Usually
reduced.
in the past it's been in the spring, but the debt issue for this year we just did at the last council meeting. So we can do it any time in the year, you know, that we want. You know, some finance directors want it like January 1st, as soon as they can get the money. Others are like, well, we don't need it until later on because we can cash flow it. That's going to be up to the finance director. Sometimes it's based on the capacity to get the work done. That factors into it. It could be based on interest rate projections. So, yeah, I don't know if you have a sweet spot or not as far as when you'd like to see the debt.
Usually spring is good if we can cash flow it. One thing to point out is with the remediation, and if that's going to start in November, we may have to issue debt for a portion of this prior to that. If we're doing the remediation starting November, we have 2.2 million that we wouldn't want to just issue all the debt right away January, but do a separate issue or say trust fund loan or do a draw loan from a bank and then add that into the debt when we go to issue the debt. So there's options that we'll consider at that time, but likely we'll have to do something prior to issuing the debt for everything else.
So I just want to make sure, am I understanding this correctly? In the most simple terms, it doesn't actually sound like we need to cut anything to get to the 12 to 13 million mark, right? Okay.
Yeah, we did, prior to even getting to this point, we did meet with all department heads. And that's where some of these street projects, like we talked about moving or just through conversation, parks, we made adjustments prior to getting to this point. So that's where we feel more comfortable with what's being presented because we worked through some things. The mayor had some changes as well. So coming into this where it's not just departments asking what they want, it is, but we also went through the projects and did some movement or changes in numbers. for what we knew.
And there's a few items on here that I kind of want the department heads to sharpen their pencils a little bit more. Because I think, you know, they can continue to shop for some of this stuff and maybe get better pricing. But it's not going to amount to $1 million. I can tell you that off the top of my head. It's probably several $100,000 at most. Like I said, the biggest one is you know, the ladder truck. And depending on the vendor, that number could vary too, is kind of what you shared with me. So I don't know if you've had any further conversations about that. I haven't.
I have not.
Okay.
So really quick, could we just break this down like 101 style? If, let's say there aren't any changes for the sake of simplicity, and the debt issue is 15.3 million. What is the number we're looking at what would be supported by the levy? Is it 12? Is it 13? Is it somewhere in between?
Let me do some quick math.
Thank you.
Can you add it in Excel? It's fine. So taking out the TID 8, the stormwater portion, the Dvorak and SPI, the EMS, because that's another fund, we're looking at 10.2 of levy supported debt.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Get a form. So could you also clarify how much is grants that are, we're going to get those, or if we don't get those, then the actual cost will be whatever that is?
So the grant total is 1.2 million. There's some other offsetting revenue that we have in here. Some is a carry forward. Otherwise, there's some revenue from the sale of equipment that we typically haven't done, but I would like to see used to offset how much debt we issue.
And then what we were just talking about is that figure doesn't include potential, like the TAP grant that we were talking about. So that'd come off as well.
Yeah, so the amount in here didn't include the $22,770. So that wasn't in the list. We made a note of it. That wasn't included in the original list. So it would be 23,000 less. Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry. It was Steven.
Yeah. There'd be some details in that TAP grant, like if they paid for engineering or not. Right. There's stuff like that, but it'd be substantial though.
So I think if we're ultimately at 10.2 million levy supported debt, then that's reasonable within, or, you know, it's under our 11 to 12 that we were looking to aim for. And we would still have, even if we make the recommendation, if we recommend everything that's in here to move forward to council, we still, things can start to move, at least in the department that you can work with, and then, but we would still have time before finalizing the budget in November, that if other information comes in, and we can make those fine-tune adjustments before November timeframe, right?
Correct.
And I thought of the question that I was going to ask
Go for it.
before. I know that we talked, like you said, just recently, when we were talking about the debt issuance and some other things, that sometimes the budget requests reflect a little bit more, we bite off more than we can necessarily chew. Do we feel like we're a little closer in terms of a realistic estimate of what we can do in the next year or so?
I would just ask Director Abreu that, because he's probably got the biggest load.
Yeah, I think we're in a good spot. I think some of the stuff that I have concerns about revolves around like the Opera House and getting those, new landmarks and everything and getting approvals. We have some partners that are helping us get through that type of stuff. I know we have some pointing at the library even that we're trying to get done. So that type of stuff worries me more than like a road project, to be honest. I know those are still, $100,000 here and there, but those are the ones I think that we can improve on getting started earlier in the year, get those through, because there are some challenges sometimes that are unforeseen or they take longer. That's out of our control. But I think we've learned some lessons where we can get started earlier in the year on those processes versus getting started, later. So I would say there's nothing in these that I'm concerned about. There's some stuff in this year's that I'm concerned about, but in the 2026 proposed, I don't have any.
And I just want to remind everyone too that before we go to actually issue the debt, we review the projects. I will touch base with all department heads like I did this past year and go through, is this still going to happen? Is this still a good cost? And make any necessary adjustments before we actually issue the debt.
So even though the numbers are always eye-popping to look at, it's a lot of debt to consider issuing. But I think some of it is, and this is part that I struggle with, it's a lot of money to look at, to levy debt for. But some of the things that are being accomplished in here are things that maybe we should have done years ago, or we're working through those, but a lot of this is investments and investments in the future and corrections of things that maybe we should have done years ago. So.
And just because we brought up Van Buren, if we did add that in, the 10.2 would go to 10.8-ish. Just something to keep in mind, if that's one thing. I don't know if you have strong feelings about it. I just know that's one thing we moved and the street did look bad.
Yeah, I know if we can support it in 2026, then I'd be all, by all means, let's do it. But obviously,
I think it would be one of them, or if we put it in there thinking, if we get a good bid, we'll do it. If we don't get a good bid, we'll rebid it. That's the other option on any of those projects.
With any of these, the need doesn't go away. I mean, they're in here for a reason. There's umpteen others that need to be in here that we just can't fit in. We try to, but we definitely, the longer we push them, the more expensive they get. So if we push it to 2027, you could probably factor another 3%, 4% into the cost.
Yeah, and there's a couple projects that I would say are really once in a lifetime project. Mm-hmm. The stuff in the river, the stuff on the river bank. Those aren't going to be on. Hopefully those won't be ongoing. And some of the remediation costs, we're going to seek settlement on some of that from previous property owners, but we haven't even begun that process yet. So, there may be an opportunity there to capture some of those dollars back, but it's just, too early to, we talked about it earlier today at a meeting. There's a clock ticking on that one too. So we'll have more information on that in a few weeks.
And the pedestrian bridge, we shouldn't have to revisit that one again for 20 years,
Right.
25 years.
At least, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least, I mean, those bridges are, again, a 40, 50-year life cycle on those, plus, depending on construction materials and things like that, but the abutments and everything, and those steel bridges aren't going anywhere.
Yeah, and these DOT costs, those are every, 30 years?
So the concrete's gonna be a 40-year plus, and any minor maintenance we have to do, but any major maintenance, even though it's a connecting highway, they'll still come in and do it like what happened in 2020.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of creep in them costs even for what we're doing now, especially on the utilities end. All of a sudden we're moving poles that we didn't know we had to move. They uncover some sanitary lines and maybe some of the seals are bad. And it's like, well, you got the road open, you got to fix them, right? So there's always going to be those sorts of things that come up during these projects as well. But, we get through them and we just want to do things the right way. I mean, I think that's the most important thing. And I think Van Buren's a good example of there's opportunity to do it differently this time.
Take care of that underlying water that's underneath all those roads there.
It's utilities aren't here. Well, I guess mayor's here, but those are things that people don't see is underground. Even the stormwater aspects of our projects, a lot of people don't care until the water doesn't go away from their building, or they don't get water, or their wastewater doesn't go away.
They don't realize if they're still dealing with the clay pipe, something like that at any given moment, collapse and project. Get rid of that while you can.
The other thing too is we don't want them digging into our new streets either. So, fixing the infrastructure, making sure it's up to date is a good investment.
And hopefully we don't have an August like this year. At least for Van Buren residents.
Record flows on the river this week.
Yeah. Adrian?
I mean, I feel pretty good about this, I think, but take that with a grain of salt. Are there any scenarios in which the TID 8 stormwater, Dvorak, STI, EMS wouldn't happen and we would find ourselves in an issue where we need more leverage?
Well, for the 2.2 million, this is where we're doing the TID 7 amendment. It's an allocation amendment for it to be a donor TID. So in the cash flow, TID 7 has enough and projected to cover current obligations of TID 8 plus this upcoming 2.8. So that should be good. The Dvorak SDI, it's a developer's agreement. EMS, we're looking at, their budget now and increases that we're supposed to start this last year.
They go to public safety this week to talk about their EMS fee increase.
So making sure, that's one thing I've wanted to look at is making sure, like with EMS, not only just increasing the fees, but making sure whatever those increased fees, what we anticipate for revenue, everything's going to continue to cash flow. Just like with stormwater, we've identified that if with the current debt and the upcoming debt that's proposed and looking at 2024 audited net revenues, they're going to need to see an increase there as well. So like Storm would have the funds to pay that. It's something we would monitor, and we're going to be looking at this year, doing an increase to make sure that not just the operating, but future debt and some wiggle room in there for their debt coverage.
All right, anybody else with any other final thoughts on that? Otherwise, our options are to have a meeting, maybe not necessarily next week, but soon, so that things can start to move along in the finance department. Otherwise, we could make a motion to recommend what we have in front of us today.
I'll make a motion to recommend this to council.
All right, Adrian's made a motion.
Second.
Patrick has seconded that motion. Any other and last questions, thoughts on?
Does the motion include the Van Buren or not? I guess I need to be clear on that.
I believe that does include the Van Buren.
Sure, why not? I will make a motion to recommend this to council with the inclusion of the Van Buren Street project.
So that'd be amending the CIP to move Van Buren to 2026. I'll continue to second the amended
All right.
recommendation.
Is that what you were looking for, Regina?
Yes.
Okay. All right. If no other questions on that, then all in favor of recommending that, say aye.
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 And any opposed? All right. The CIP is recommended to council.
And thank you
Motion
for
to
all your
adjourn.
hard work. Everybody.
What's that?
You adjourned.
Second.
Motion to adjourn in a second. Fantastic. Any other? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? All right, meeting is adjourned. Thanks, everybody.